Welcome guys, gals, and non-binary pals to this week's episode of Buffy Boys, your weekly review of Buffy the Vampire Slayer from a queer, literary and feminist perspective. My name is Joel, and with me as always is my delightful co-host.
Brian. No, that can't be me.
It is you. It's always you. It's always you. Welcome to the show, Brian.
Thank you.
This week we're going to be talking about Season 3, Episode 19 of Buffy the Vampire Slayer, which is Choices.
It sure is. Yeah, should I jump into the Buffy and summary and whatnot?
Tell us what happened in this episode. Give us a summary.
Cool. So this was first aired on May the 4th. Maybe I've written that down wrong. May the 4th, 1999. It was directed by James A. Contner, who last directed Helpless, and was written by David Fury, who last wrote Helpless. So they're obviously a bit of a writing-directing duo. So good job them. I hope they're still friends.
And alive.
Oh, I'm pretty sure they're both alive, but I could be wrong. Okay, so here's your Buffy on summary. The mayor receives a box of demon beetles he needs to eat for his ascension. Buffy steals them from the town hall, but Willow is captured and threatened by Faith. The mayor offers a swap, which Buffy accepts against Wesley's orders. Faith loses her knife, the mayor's gift. That was so useless.
That syntax was not fantastic.
But no, not even just that, like just the...
None of the thematic stuff was in there. Also,
the structure of the episode wasn't there.
Yeah, I disagree with the fact that them being beetles.
Yeah, they're not that beetly.
I have always...
Spiders.
Box of demon spiders. I'm pretty sure that's the consensus.
But also, he does eat them. That happens in a future episode.
Mm-hmm.
So I really feel like whoever was writing these did not watch the episodes to just check what happened.
Like, what do I remember happening in this episode? I think it was something like this.
Mm-hmm.
So before we dive straight into the box of Gavrok, metaphorically speaking, we wanted to talk about something for Buffy, for Bronze Panther. I've already forgotten what it was, so please enlighten me, Brian.
Oh God, yeah. I mean, we didn't go to the cinema this week because we're bad people. We were supposed. Oh no, we're not bad people. Spencer and Dara are bad people.
Yeah,
they were supposed to go see Cats, which would have been amazing.
Cats would have been great fogger. I think some people have seen Cats.
Yeah,
so true. It might be, it might be interesting to talk about.
Well, apparently very few people have seen Cats because it was a box office bomb, but I cannot wait to see it. I do not like the musical in any way, but apparently it is just a nightmare to watch, so I'm excited for it. We didn't go to cinema. We didn't really watch that much this week. I finished my playthrough of Final Fantasy VIII, which was good fun.
True. I watched a YouTuber rank in a tiered list every item he could find in the grocery store. So
yeah, Northern Line, really
normcore content.
You finished a bunch of games as well, right?
I did. Yeah, I played a lot of indie games.
Yeah, you finished. What's eating Edith Finch?
What Remains of Edith Finch? The Unfinished Swan is now finished, as far as I'm concerned. There was something else as well.
Ethan Carter.
The Vanishing of Ethan Carter. Yeah.
There was another. Super Hot. You played last week.
Super Hot. So basically, all the hot games of 2014, 15, 16. I'm on the pulse of.
But no, one of the things that came out this weekend, just on Friday gone, was Sex Education Season 2.
Yes.
Which I can't remember. Did we talk about Sex Education Season 1 last year?
I don't believe so.
No, I don't
Maybe
think so
in
either.
passing. I think we talked a little bit about the fact that it has a intentionally ambiguous aesthetic, so it kind of looks like the 80s, but it's actually contemporary, and it's kind of set in Wales, but also with a very US high school approach to things.
Yeah, it's just a nice bit of ambiguity on the top of everything there, but it's Asa Butterfield,
yeah.
And
who, if anyone knows him from anything, is probably from Ender's Game. But
Ender's Game, yeah, exactly.
I think it's one of his more significant things.
I always think he was also in The Road, but I don't think he was. I think that was another kid.
I think maybe that was him.
Oh,
I could be wrong.
And Gillian Anderson, obviously, is the other one. But it's a TV show.
Who played Scully in X-Files, amongst many other things.
And played the heroine in every dream I've ever had. She's wonderful. She's also bi-dialectal, which is interesting, and bisexual.
Yeah.
Nice. But she...
Hannibal. She's in Hannibal as well.
Oh, yeah, of course. Yeah. She's in everything. She's wonderful. But yeah, Sex Education. Loads of fun. Season 1 was pretty great. It's about this kid who starts like a sex education therapy kind of thing in secondary school illicitly because his mother is a sex therapist and he knows quite a lot about sex, but he has his own sexual problems, would you believe?
Shocking.
And just about him helping out kids in school. Lots of queerness, lots of just genuine conversation.
Sex, like genuine, uncringy sex positivity, as in like it's sincere. Yeah, it's like a lot of queerness in there, but it also actually does a pretty good job of exploring things which aren't necessarily in a queer space, but which are in an overlapping sex positive space, which is very useful as well. And it's just very funny.
Yeah, it's really, really funny. But yeah, season 2 came out and it's been getting absolutely glowing reviews. I can see why. We've only watched 2 episodes so far, or maybe 3. Anyway, the episodes we watched were uproariously funny and very warm and genuine and just really, really fucking good across the board. Big fan.
It's a show that's not afraid to use a lot of vibrant colour, because it's quite a crutch, I think, for shows, particularly say in the last maybe 6 or 7 years, to make things very gritty and washed out and greys and browns to try and inject some kind of pathos into it. But like this is just like, no, big bright colours, big like life jackets, Marry McFly kind of stuff.
Yeah, shell jackets. Yeah, you're right. It's been good. I've been enjoying it. I kind of feel like we picked something to talk about that we had watched more than 2 episodes of, but
we also watched the whole first season of that, and we got a lot to say about that as well.
True.
It's really interesting, kind of a couple of focal point queer characters as well, and a kind of examination of race in terms of how that interacts with kind of like traditional.
It's nice because like I feel like another sex positive kind of fantasy setting, not fantasy setting, sorry, but like if an ambiguous setting plus like queerness, I think a lot of people trend towards kind of not including the actual implications of queerness in real life, whereas the gay character in season 1, or I won't say gay character, I think he's pretty clearly gay.
I think he's gay. I think that's the consensus that he's gay.
He's black and he's gay, and he has issues with coming out to his father, who's like quite traditional in his masculinity, and he's also bullied aggressively, and these things aren't necessarily things that you might want to deal with if you're kind of creating like a slightly utopian-ish kind of setting. But no, it deals with those quite well, and it's well thought out. It's absolutely not what I'm trying to say here. It's not trying to be sacrosanct.
Yes, it's very
no, saccharine. I mean saccharine. It's not trying to be saccharine.
It's neither saccharine nor sacrosanct, I would argue. And it's kind of like Big Mouth, except we can recommend it with a clear conscience.
You can recommend it without like warning people they might puke by watching it. Yeah,
and it's very much about like, you know, how it's perfectly, you know, healthy and positive to have sex, unless in very specific circumstances you are a vampire who has been cursed with a soul, for which one moment of perfect happiness will drive you to mass murder. I think even though we spend so much of our lives talking about Buffy, I think in this episode of Buffy was one of the few times I've remembered, he doesn't necessarily have to have sex to lose his soul. Because when they talk about his moment, basically the mayor in this episode talks about how if Angel has one moment of perfect happiness, and obviously we don't get any specifications mechanically of how the spell works, but it doesn't necessarily have to be an orgasm. But conventionally we've always assumed it to be so.
Absolutely.
So we watched Choices.
We did, and the first thing I want to say, Joe, it is the 19th of January.
It is.
Happy birthday, Buffy Summers.
Oh.
Yeah, it's Buffy's birthday. It's very unclear in the show when her birthday is, obviously. So, originally in I, Robot You, Jane, 2 dates were given, one of which was 1979, one of which was 1980. But since then, it's been taken as read that her birthday is 1981. And that she's an Aries on the cusp of blah, 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 blah. I'm not sure. But, and
more
that
supernatural stuff.
Yeah, I don't know. And that was like between the 17th and 21st of January.
Okay.
But fans have taken the 19th because that is the date that Innocence was aired. So Innocence Surprise was aired the 19th and 20th in 1998.
Sure.
So people have taken that date as being her birthday. And Joss Whedon has agreed that sure, and he's celebrated quotation marks Buffy's birthday on the 19th of January. So it's Sunday the 19th of January.
39, is that right? Have I done that right?
So she's 81, so 39.
Yeah.
Buffy Summers just turned 39 today. She's turning 40 next year. We will be recording our 103rd episode most likely. So that'll be what's the 100th episode of something interesting. It's not Tabula Rasa. Oh my god, Joel. Okay. Guess what the 100th episode of Buffy is?
Not Tabula Rasa.
No.
Yeah.
It's The Gift.
Oh, I think I actually did know that.
So this time next year we'll be talking about the third episode of season 6, whatever that is, the one after the bringing Buffy back from the grave.
Yeah, so it'd be Happy Death Day, Happy Birthday, Buffy.
Yeah. That's crazy to think that this time next year we'll be in season 6.
Yeah,
my
I'm
God.
very, very optimistic.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, this episode was pretty good.
I enjoyed it. It was very much a
Setting up episode.
setting up episode, but Buffy episodes. I've said this before. They do have a little bit of a delineation between your kind of more we're exploring a concept episode and more we're doing the main plot. And I think it's happier when it's doing its kind of side episodes a little bit than when it's necessarily always pursuing the bad guy or that kind of thing.
And you're considering this to be a pursuing the plot episode.
Absolutely. And I think they're not necessarily they can be good or bad. They can be well written or not well written. But I just think that Buffy breathed really well in its character studies. But this was an example of an episode where a lot of plot happens, and they bring in a lot of other characters and NPCs and Snyder and Faith and various vampires, and everyone gets their moment to actually progress a bit. And it was just a lot of fun, and it also had moments of genuine kind of horror in it and supernatural stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. The action in this episode was particularly good. Like, the fight scenes were good, and the standoff at the end was genuinely like thrilling and fun.
Yeah.
At the beginning, in the middle of the episode, Buffy and Angel go to take the box off the mayor, because it is the thing that he needs to create the Ascension Day. And
we learn about this box in this episode. So basically, something demonic he needs to make the Ascension happen.
And they go down, and Buffy is on a harness, Mission Impossible style, being lowered into the room, and she gets caught. And she does a bit of like aerial action there, where she's like fighting the people, and it is the most I've ever seen like stunt actors in a scene in my life. It was so clearly not Sarah Michelle Gellar or Dave Boreanaz, but it was actually just great action pieces. It was just very fun. It was very dynamic. There was like the box they were throwing back and forth to each other.
Yeah. There was some thought went into that choreography. She didn't have to be on a winch.
No, she didn't.
Yeah, someone wanted to do that.
Yeah, and then the standoff was genuinely kind of is very clearest relationship there is to Alien.
Yes, in terms of the
facehuggers.
In terms of the actual monster or the BC itself. Yeah, absolutely.
And just that sense of like it's scuttling around and everything.
Yeah, so this is one of these strong horror images for me in recalling Buffy, in pre-podcast times.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because you have a box in which it's a doorway to, it's bigger on the inside, this doorway to another demonic dimension. And the mayor says there's 50 billion of these evil spiders in there. And I don't know, that's cosmic horror to me. And doing it in the dark and having it scuttling around, and the potential if you don't keep the box closed, they're just going to keep coming and coming and coming. Yeah, that's horror. Yeah, I like it. I think it's well done. I think that it's definitely building towards various confrontations at, on so many levels. So many levels. There's the obvious one between Mare and Buffy. There's the clash of Buffy and Angel's relationship. There's a kind of more minor additional quakes of Buffy kind of going to clash with Joyce over Joyce wanting different things for her. Xander and Cordelia clashing over Cordelia's, we kind of find that she's lost her wealth and, is kind of having trouble making ends meet and all that kind of stuff. There's just a lot of things. Wesley and
most importantly, Wesley and Buffy, I would say. Yeah,
Wesley and Buffy colliding. It's just, but you have to set all of those up at different times throughout the previous episodes in an authentic way. This is good writing as an arc. This pays off, and I think
this is the junction at which the crossroads meet to funnel into a great finale.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're like, oh, yeah, no, and it's all earned. All these individual moments are earned, and the fact that this is the first time that the mayor and Buffy properly confront each other. Is a little surprising and also very rewarding, I think, because Buffy as a show and the way its world works, it can't have her fist fighting the villain in every second episode. No. When things actually do come together, for a show which is so pop culture in so many ways and is so light in so many ways, it does have very high stakes in that it takes a long time to prepare for things, and when people do come together, be it Spike and Drusilla in the church or Angelus or any of that kind of stuff, it's short, sharp, violent action that happens, and then everything changes. Yeah. And I really like that as a momentum in the show, and it really pays off in this episode.
It's you're absolutely right. There's also like one of the things I note about that whole interaction is that yes, they do come together for the first time and they interact, and from my viewpoint, it's a very militaristic moment. You know, the kind of exchanging of hostages, and military and Buffy is like a whole essay to be written, because obviously the initiative in season 4, and then most importantly in season 7 when Buffy creates her own army and stuff. But it really feels like, you know, the two army leaders meeting in a communal space. And
yeah, just like briefly on that point, I thought it's a theme that permeates kind of the wider Buffy canon as well, because one of the big questions in the comics is, okay, you know, have a private military force of 1,800 Slayers, which owes no allegiance to any country, and basically military is considering this as like a severe terrorist organization because of that. So yeah, I think like it's an interesting one. And they talk in this episode quite a bit about strategy and going on the offensive, but also once again Buffy intuitively understanding that they need to press and they can't wait and react to things, and Giles very much trusting her to enact a plan and be able to be strategic and know what to give and what not to give and all that, and Wesley just having absolutely none of that. I actually cannot believe that this character, where he is at the end of season 3, which is what we're approaching now, having had no growth whatsoever in the space of in-universe maybe 10 episodes, becomes something which has the capacity for that growth. You know, because it's like episode 8, I think, of Angel that he's introduced in, and grows into a much more decisive character.
You're right. It's fascinating. And like, you know, part of me thinks like, you know, what's probably happening there is that like Joss Whedon probably liked Alexis Denisov and was like, listen, do you want to go to Angel? Like, we can just give you an actual character there. And he was like, oh yeah, sure. So we've highlighted Wesley a couple of times here. This episode, for my money's worth, is like one of the more like conflicty existential episodes of the season. I think it's probably this episode's equivalent to Lie to Me. So we have a couple of really great, very textual existential issues here. So one of which is, Willow gets kidnapped by Faith, who captures her, and that presents two issues. One is that Willow confronts Faith. She talks to her. She says, like, you know, Faith is like, oh, what are you going to tell me, that I have so much to live for, I have so much I could go back.
It's not too late.
It's not too late. And Willow says, no, it's definitely too late. You had a troubled childhood and you had like a crappy time of it, but you had so much going for you. You had friends like Buffy, and you had
more than most people have.
More than most people have.
You were a Slayer.
Yeah, you're a Slayer, and now you're nothing. And there are a couple of things there. One is that for me really recalls a speech that Buffy gives Billy Fordham. Billy Fordham, thank you.
No way, that's what I remember.
Billy Fordham, where she said, you don't have a good choice, but you have a choice. Where he's saying, I have no choice here. I have, like, I'm dying. And that's the thing, is that like Buffy and Willow represent people who will, even in the most difficult of situations, always choose what is, like, you know, right. And rightness obviously being a topic that we'll touch on in a minute. But yes, so not only has Faith chosen here, she's, like, you know, determined existentially her path for wrong, but also she this is highlighting the fact that, like, you know, in an existential sense, given that Faith has kind of deferred her moral crisis by following what the mayor says just fully, she doesn't have any moral decision making doing anymore, which is interesting. But yeah, so when Buffy and Wesley are talking about Willow being kidnapped, the issue there is Wesley thinks that we can't try to save Willow, because by doing so we are jeopardizing thousands of other lives, And Buffy says, no, we have to save Willow. So Mark Field, our,
long-standing contributor, Mark Field.
Exactly, thank you.
Friend of the podcast, Mark Field.
Friend of the podcast. So he identifies Wesley in this instance as being a consequentialist. I would have said more of a utilitarian, potentially, but a consequentialist, whereby you have to look at the consequences of an action to see whether or not it's morally right. So the criticism of that would obviously be, if you are looking at consequences, you can justify almost any action.
Yeah.
If you can justify killing innocent people on the basis of, but down the line that'd be good for this reason.
Yeah.
You also can't predict consequences of things. So I think Buffy in this instance, and Mark Field identifies Buffy as a deontologist. So deontological theory is annoying, but it's an existential branch, which suggests that there's a nice Latin phrase that I didn't write down, but essentially means while the world is on fire, you have to do what you can, or you do what you can identify as being best.
Sure.
So doing what you can identify as being best in a absurdist reality is one of the it's probably one of the more consistent existential themes. Because if you're talking about existentialism, you're saying nothing means anything inherently. The issues of morality become very difficult because nobody who's an existentialist ever wants to justify rape, murder, or any really awful things, you know? But so Buffy represents this mode of saying, well, this is the thing in the moment that we have to do, which is the good thing, the just action. And Buffy has very clear values in that sense, while being quite an existential character.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I think that's very, very incisive, and I agree, because I think it's a consistent theme that the show tries to, I would argue, advocate for by introducing so many Maltese Falcons and so many MacGuffins into it. Because in this episode, it's very important. It's crucially important that we stop the box of Gavrok, which we've never heard about before this episode. And people do, and it's in no way bad writing. It's good writing, but people do tend to immediately act like this is now the thing they care about the most, and it's almost like presaging fucking Tumblr or Twitter in the modern day, where it's suddenly this is all I've ever cared about. Where Buffy actually just has some real consistency. She's like, yes, I can judge whether this is important, but she states that people are important, the people around her, and the immediate help she can give. You would never see Buffy leave a kind of a civilian in the path of having fallen down just so she can chase someone. That's very specifically. And
importantly, she would never, Buffy has to know that she as a person has more value for good than most people, which is obviously a very bizarre statement, but Buffy probably has more agency to change the fate of the world. She's able to save the world quite consistently. And she can, this whole episode really, really presages The Gift, episode 100.
It's absolutely what I was going to say. Go ahead.
Because it's another situation where Buffy has to make a very difficult decision like this. But in that situation, she's looking at Dawn, who is by this point, having been used as a key, entirely useless. Definitely cannot save the world at any point, and never does. Thankfully, she doesn't ever become a.
She's not a lock.
Oh, yeah, true. But she's definitely not what I'm trying to say here, Wesley Crusher. She's definitely not a Wesley Crusher.
I'm not getting into the Wesley Crusher conversation with you, Brian.
Anyway,
it's not worth it.
Well, the two things we can't talk about in this relationship: the fact that Wesley Crusher saves the Enterprise 9 million times,
2.5 times,
9 million times in Next Generation, and the fact that only even-numbered Star Trek movies are good. But it's a situation. If Buffy saw someone on the street and she was like, "That person's going to die," I can throw myself in front of this and die instead. Even if that person is just a useless person who will never do much good, Buffy will always do that.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I think as a show, I don't necessarily know a lot about what Joss Whedon's plans were long term for Buffy season to season. I think the season arcs are quite strong and the characters are consistent. I don't know how much he planned. I don't think it was the error of planning a 5-season arc for something necessarily. No. But I think the first 5 seasons in particular
Super tight.
Super tight. And what happens in The Gift is Buffy has a situation where the most immediate good she has to serve is helping her sister, which also saves the world, and it brings her tremendous peace. Because she's like, this is it. This is what I can do.
Joel, I'm getting like
I'm getting emotional too.
I'm getting a little goosebumps.
I got into. I think it was I saying this to you recently, but on my lunch break and work recently, I found like a list of like great Buffy moments and looked them up on YouTube. And I was fucking weeping by the time I went back to the office. It was a terrible idea. I always
like there's like in my brain there is a universe where Buffy is dead, you know, in that moment where because it wasn't a sure thing that it was getting renewed for season 6.
Sure.
And like for viewers, they weren't aware that I think they found out that season 6 was happening right after it aired, kind of thing. But there is a genuine like this alternate universe where Buffy season 5 was the end of the show, and it would have been
one ending. Yeah.
Oh god, I don't. Oh yeah.
Anyway.
Okay, we can't think about The Gift too much.
No. But like,
especially because the prom is next week, and I'm going to cry then too.
True, absolutely. No, but I do think that Buffy's prioritization of the personal is consistent in that way, and it contrasts with, you know, if you look closely at any character that plays this kind of heroic protagonist role, you will often find that on the surface, you know, all your heroes might do X and Steve Rogers might do X and whatever, but they do it for very different reasons. Look at just very briefly like a character like the Doctor in Doctor Who, when he is at a point where he has to sacrifice himself for other people, he will do it, but there is a sense of personal loss sometimes that he doesn't, you know, classically he doesn't want to go, or he doesn't want to lose himself.
The Doctor is a deeply self-involved character.
Yeah, and you know, for various reasons, the narrative contributes to that and examines that in various ways. But there is a sense of, when it comes down to it, there's a very difficult choice to be made, which matters for the Doctor to put aside his sense of self for someone else, and he does that consistently. With Buffy, the choice is there, and there are difficult choices, but helping other people before herself is not actually it. That's never something she struggles with, you know, not in any significant way, not any more than any person would, but she does still have to do it, you know, which is, as I've always said, that, you know, choices are significant in this context. But I think it's great. I think this episode was a real representation of a lot of the characters and what they choose to do under various pressure, and actually what I wasn't expecting out of this episode. Tour de force for Willow.
Yeah, Alison Hannigan was so good.
I think it was a really, really interesting moment for Willow's development, because it was so essential for her to, maybe more so than any other character in the Scoobies from season 1, to grow. Yes. Because there was always a danger of her being cast as, well, look how, you know, shit regular women are, and here's super Buffy over here, and she's just screaming all the time. And like, I'm not saying that was ever the case, but this is an episode where she is in the fray because she's using combative magic. She's an essential part of the plan. She gets captured, as people often do. Giles gets knocked out all the time. She stakes a vampire using magic and her own wiles. And as Faith points out, when she could have ran, she stayed to read the Book of Ascensions and steal vital information, and stands up to Faith. That's entirely her by herself. Yep. No one helps her out of that situation. All that help comes after the fact. So that's really establishing her as she's a fully active agent.
There's an incredible amount of braveness to braveness?
Bravery.
I think I've done that literal thing on this podcast before. Yeah. Anyway, there's a lot of...
Here, look, Joss Whedon does that. People call it like Emmy award-winning writing. So
I was just sitting here being like, "There's a lot of bravery." I was like, "No, there's a lot of bravery to Willow's actions in this episode." There's also people complaining online that she should have just escaped then, and she wouldn't have needed the Book of Ascension if they didn't have to trade the box back.
That's something Wesley would say.
It is something Wesley would say. There's a lot of Wesleys online, to be honest. Anyway, but she stays. She reads the books. She does her sleuthing. And she's brave and stalwart and true throughout. But of course, the bravest moment for Willow is at the end of the episode, where to reflect Buffy's genuine goodness, because Buffy's genuine goodness is in feeling like knowing that she is trapped, but knowing that she will do it anyway, even trappedness aside. Willow is her counterpart there. Willow, while having opportunities all around the world to do a 4-year degree in Oxford, the only person ever to do so, she could go anywhere.
She's planning to fail a year.
She has an open ticket
Yeah.
for whatever future she wants, and she decides that the important thing for her to do is to stay in Sunnydale and help Buffy and to prevent apocalypses. You know,
Yeah, it's a conversation which is on par with any of the best conversations that Giles has with Buffy, because Willow says, you know, I could go anywhere. You know, she's like, I love you a lot, but you're not the reason I'm staying, which is very important because again,
it's so self-determinative.
Yeah.
Determinative.
It has to be this has to be self-determined, independent characters, independent women, with agency, making choices to live side by side rather than any one person being a messiah, etc. But she says that I want to stay because I have clarity in that moment when she was kidnapped, and she says that she wants to stay because what they do is a fight worth doing, and she's good at it, and that's what she wants to do with her life. And she says to Buffy, you don't do this just because you quote unquote have to. You want to do this, and it's the right thing to do, and that's incredible. It's incredible to reframe it in that way, because really what faith is there to demonstrate, amongst other things,
is you don't
have to be the Slayer. It's certainly not the way Buffy is. All you have is magically imbued strength and speed and visions. Doesn't mean you can do anything with it if you're not committed to it.
Yeah, I mean, like Buffy the Vampire Slayer, the most important element of that is not the Vampire Slayer thing, is the Buffiness. The Buffiness is just heroism and goodness. Anyway, I'm going to stop talking about that because I'm going to get too emotional. But like, how blessed are we how blessed are we that just like that conversation even exists in
Blessing
media.
is apocryphally correct.
I know. I just felt so like very Handmaid's Tale. But that just like that conversation exists between two incredibly well-developed female characters in the year 1999, and like, let's be real, probably adjust the course of media just by having those kind of characters being able to explore those things.
I want to ask you a question.
It's also stronger, I think, than that conversation is one of the strongest representations of two women in TV that I've seen in the last year.
True.
I can't think of any single other brilliant moment, because female friendship is
to that level now.
Yeah, because
of course not.
One thing that people emphasize is like strong female characters in media. So it's like, you know, really empowered women, and that's great. They don't tend to emphasize female friendship.
No.
Which is, you know, that's the thing, is like, you know, female friendship is so looked down upon, and it's one of those things in the kind of what's her name, two lady characters,
the
Bechdelian kind of sense. Yeah, the Bechdel test, for everyone knows the Bechdel test, I'm sure, for most part.
We've definitely talked about the Bechdel
We've talked
test
about it before.
Yeah.
As a quick refresher, it's a comic book or comic strip where Alison Bechdel suggested that to pass this test, you'd have to a property has to have two women who have names having a conversation that is not a bit of man, and
a tremendous amount of well-regarded and popular like films and TV shows did not have examples.
2014 was the first year where more films passed the Bechdel test in of the highest grossing box office movies than didn't, which is bizarre. But female friendships are so de-emphasized in that situation.
Sure.
And that's just, it's such a natural source of actual character development. Anyway, whatever. Go on.
Circle back, question to ask you, because I think you're more tuned into this than I will be. Oz is a weird character, and I never know what to make of him in any situation to some degree. But in this episode, he obviously has a strong characterized moment because Willow is endangered, and he becomes absolutely laser focused on saving her to the extent that he smashes their only way of taking the other option, which would be to destroy the box and potentially save thousands, to focus them in on having to get Willow back. What do you think of that?
Well, it's a very, I mean, okay, it's a clear Gordian knot moment, you know. It's there's moralizing, which is what Wesley is doing, and kind of Buffy is kind of rejecting that, and Oz kind of overlooks the conversation and sees actions. It's kind of it's a nice little just moment of, you know, a virtuous action rather than pontificating.
Yeah, you see the simplicity through it, and his one simple goal is to keep Willow safe.
Exactly, it's a well written moment.
He's a well constructed male character because he's very much in service of her. She's his life.
She is, and he has developed character aside from that as well, which is like, you know, if he had a female equivalent in any other property, they'd be like, wow, really well written character. You know. He also is like good enough to put up with Xander, and they have a conversation, and he's like, oh yeah, my will, she's great. And there's no bitterness there to it, given that he's like walked in on him and her macking like 8 weeks ago.
Absolutely.
Okay. Speaking of Xander, on the road in this episode, he is reading. He's talking about how he's going to follow his Jack Kerouac like dreams of wandering around and dumpster diving instead of going to college.
I was reading about a film adaptation that only this morning, just by coincidence.
Oh, really?
Because I was reading about Kristen Stewart's filmography.
Is it upcoming?
No, it was like a few years ago.
Oh, okay. Well, I wasn't
good.
much reply. I mean, I don't like it as a text.
Sure.
Have you read it?
I haven't actually, no.
I read it when I was like 16. I just don't care. I think it's more of a cultural touchstone than it is a genuinely great novel, personally. But I mean, like the whole point of On the Road is aimlessness and indecision, and Xander accurately represents that here. He's also just a douche to Cordelia.
Like the pastiche is like he's exactly the kind of person who, whether On the Road is a good text or not, he's exactly the kind of person who would latch on to it and be like, Jack Kerouac was a genius and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, it's
one of the things I quite like about Catcher in the Rye is that people see the same thing in that. It's like, total phonies. And when I was 16, I was like, people are such phonies, and it's so beautiful how he tries to blah 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 blah. But like the antidote of Holden Caulfield is within the text of Catcher in the Rye, like the argument against that kind of wild and reckless passion and fear that Holden Caulfield experiences is like written into the text in characters telling him, no, you can't just burn yourself out and destroy yourself for this cause, you have to live nobly, etc. I just really like Catcher in the Rye. Anyway,
it's a good book.
Yeah, J.D. Salinger is so underappreciated.
Yeah, it's hard to believe he only ever wrote one novel.
Oh, shut the fuck up. Okay.
Faith gets her knife in this episode and has it for a tremendously short period of time. Apparently, she can get through a full. You know what I was going to say? Brian?
She doesn't kill a single person at all.
She didn't even get through a full knife with this episode, is what I said. What I was thinking. She can get through the whole episode with her knife. She throws it. So it's bizarre. This whole standoff situation they have in the cafeteria in the school, where Snyder arrives, puts his foot into it, causes everything to kick off. Faith saves Wesley ostensibly, incidentally, by pinning one of these demon spiders to the wall with her knife. And she looks at it wistfully, being like, "Oh, I've lost my knife now because the mayor tells her to leave." And like, question mark, she doesn't have time to grab it.
Yeah,
there's absolutely no reason why she couldn't have grabbed it. They weren't going to assault her. Do you know what I mean? It was a whole thing.
Let's be real, slightly bad writing. Yeah. As in, give her the knife 2 episodes previous.
Yeah.
And then it's a way better. Like, she was doing plenty of killing, and it's suddenly a way better point. Anyway, that's fine. It's grand as it is.
Also smelling the knife when she got it. It's like it's a new knife. There's no new knife spell.
It's a real gross knife as well. It has like prongs and stuff. What we hear in this episode is the mayor. If we're talking about Buffy and Angel, the mayor telling them that they're not going to last, that they can't, that they'll burn out essentially. And Buffy as a show has such a tendency to do this, having the truth coming from the mouths of evil, essentially, because this, of course, reflects Beth Spike's speech in Love's bitch speech in Lover's Walk, where he's basically saying, "Yeah, you and Angel can't be together. You love each other, but you can't. It's ridiculous."
Like, it's very much the counterpoint theme of this is about when we're looking to the future, what future that Buffy and Angel can have together. And the example the mayor uses that when he married his wife in 1903, that she was eventually cursing him for his youth, and how it was just like contributed to his whole situation. I think it's actually it's an interesting situation to put those two characters in. You wouldn't necessarily curse you to bring that, but it's good. It's setting
the stage nicely as well for the end of the season.
Because I think you really need to. They really need to find a good way, which I think they're doing, of justifying Angel leaving without it being acrimonious, and just some like obvious fight or breakup where something easy. They need kind of like a mature reason for that to happen. And one of the big themes of Angel, I think, in relation to Buffy, is how they don't end up together because they do end up being different people, but also because Angel's actually changed for the first time in like 100 years.
Yeah.
Like the him leaving means he actually is putting on familiar situations, so he's actually growing again. So yeah, I just think that's interesting. Okay, Brian, will we move into the dusting and our patrol for this evening?
Let's.
Doing our synchronized couples patrolling like in Buffy and Angel doing at the start of this episode, which is quite funny.
Yeah, you do look like you're dressed in a picnic blanket as well, so fair. Okay, I have some Buffy bits for you, Joe.
Hit me.
The security guard who dies in this episode, the guy comes in with the mayor, who opens up the box and who blinks briefly after having been killed, which I thought was a bit funny. But he is the 8th member of the Sunnydale High staff to be killed, which is kind of funny.
Probably one of the few non-teachers as well.
Yes, good point. This is the first time Willow uses her magic to kill someone. Just stake a vampire, but to kill anything. She'll do more killing with her magic
She will
in the
indeed.
future. I think it's worth noting that the prop work in this episode is great. So not only do you have Faith's very specific knife, but the books of Ascension,
knife.
yeah, the books of Ascension were very handcrafted as well. Just lots of scribbling in like ancient like fake languages and stuff, and just their like the tomes themselves were just gorgeous looking, and really reminded me of Seven actually.
Yes, actually, yeah, I was thinking that as well.
Oh, were you?
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you haven't watched Seven, there's an opening sequence whereby the serial killer is writing in his notebooks in a coded language, I want to say. Maybe just English.
No, actually, because I think specifically they're meant to be quite
Legible.
like just disturbing in English.
Okay,
you know what I
okay.
mean? So, yeah.
But a prop master actually did spend like months writing out these diaries, and there are something like 80 volumes of them, and they do actually exist.
Yeah,
So-
and apparently they're meant to be quite unsettling. Everyone was like, "Are you okay?"
I loved Faith's compound bow. It was very cool. She uses it to kill the guy who's delivering the box of Kratzer.
Yeah, the real ID tier character who arrives from, I think, South America with the box, but has a tattoo of a snake all over his face and is handcuffed to the box. We can presume that's the compound bow that she took from the sporting goods store when her and Buffy were being bad girls as well.
That's accurate, yeah. And yeah, I suppose the only other thing I was thinking there was just the pencil stabbing by Willow was super unsatisfying. It doesn't have a good clunk to it. It just felt like she kind of like stuck him with the pencil a little bit.
Yeah, but it is a nice kind of extrapolation of her spinning the pencil when she's learning her levitation magic. You know, she's now weaponized her because I think she said something like, you know, it's like that it's harder to control or it's more dangerous when she's more emotional.
Yeah.
So I thought that was nice.
What Buffy bits do you have for me, Joe?
So, weird little sequence where Joyce, so Buffy gets into Northwestern University in Illinois.
Yeah.
And she calls Buffy's Aunt Arlene, which I think we can presume is probably her sister.
Yeah, weird.
But like, Buffy leaves and then the camera stays with Joyce and she's like, Arlene, guess where Buffy got into? But like, it's kind of nothing. It was bizarre.
Yeah.
But we don't hear a lot about any of the extended families. So
except for Celia. Cecilia?
Maybe that's Cecilia's mother.
Oh,
consistent.
Jeepers.
There's a bit where Wesley says, like, by the power vested in me by the council, I forbid you. And he takes 2 fingers on each of his hand, crosses them and places them on his throat while he's saying it. I was like, what is this weird, like, British public school thing that's happening that I don't understand right now?
Yeah, that's so odd.
Buffy puts her fist through a car window at one point while someone's inside of it, and it made me have a little yelp. I was like, I wasn't expecting that at all. When they break into the mayor's office, the skylight that they're jumping in through, I think is very definitely the skylight where she fought the set where she fought the master at the end of season 1. Yeah.
Should we go through some fashion notes?
Please.
Okay. So my number one fashion moment of the episode was Willow wearing the like alchemical symbols dress that went down to her like ankles. It was awful. It was so awful.
I find her and Tara tend to wear dresses which just don't seem appropriate for the climate. So that seems like it might be clammy to wear.
Yeah, you're right. Xander is wearing a very unusual outfit at the beginning of the episode where it's like a blue jumper with a blue shirt underneath it and blue trousers, and then like shockingly white Adidas runners, and he just looks fucking awful, even though it fits.
I enjoy when we have the shock reveal of Cordelia is working in a dress shop rather than simply browsing. Her lady manager comes in and is dressed in the most lady manager in the 90s costume. Yeah. It's like, you know, big permed hair and like big pointy collar and like sugar bags and yeah. Chase, get back out. Your temper break is finished. You have to go clean up the stock room. Yeah, it's very like I love this show. You may have noticed this, but sometimes the level of direction extras get, it varies wildly from the main cast. Yeah,
It does. At the end of the episode where Willow does hand the pages of the Book of Ascension that she ripped out to Giles, and he's thrilled. He's not wearing a waistcoat at all. He's wearing just braces or suspenders and a grey shirt.
yeah.
Actually looks kind of great.
He looks great. But I also think it's meant to be indicative that he is like, it's the end of the night. He hasn't slept. He's tired. But I think he's also getting worn down by the fact that Willow keeps talking about the gossipy elements of her kidnapping rather than the plot significant ones.
I also quite liked Oz's nail varnish.
Yeah, it's cute. I might paint my nails tomorrow.
Do it. What else? Do you have any other fashion notes, Joe?
Fashion notes? No, I think I'm good. That's going to be me.
Cool. Okay. Death count. Do you have it up there?
Yeah, I do. So we have a number of murders. So
Waiters.
Angel and Buffy each dust a vamp in their patrolling at the start of the episode. Faith kills the courier with a crossbow and then cuts his hand off. Gross. More vampires generally dusted by Buffy and then obviously by Willow with the pencil. The Gavrok Spiger, says it here, kills a security guard, and the two Spigers themselves are killed by one each by Buffy and Faith.
True that.
It's quite a violent episode.
It was. Do you have a rating ready, Joe? No, you don't.
Okay. I would probably give this episode a... Yeah, you know what's feeling right? I'll give it an 8.6 fatal pencils.
Oh, I was also going to give it an 8.6 twice blessed sage.
Oh, very good. So, ding, 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 as we always do. We're on, the same rating.
I have no major issues with the episode. I thought it advanced the plot nicely. It had a thematic point, and it delivered it well. You could tell it was a thematic point because they named it the episode after the theme.
They do like to do that. Yeah. Call their shot. It had good combat. It had good choreography, prop work.
Great performance by Alison Hannigan specifically.
Good acting
always elevate an episode. Yeah, I'm good with it.
Everyone was there. Snyder was there. Snyder was like, hey, remember me? You better go get eaten by a snake soon.
Yeah. We're ramping up pretty aggressively to the end of the season. I'm so excited. The prom, it's going to be so good.
Yeah. And I like how they're putting in a little bit of legwork to make it plausible that Buffy and Willow will both be in college near enough to the existing sex and also together.
Yeah.
As opposed to most shows would just jump there.
Yeah. It's going to be great.
Yeah.
Okay, should we wrap up there, Joe?
Yeah. So thanks so much for listening to Buffy Boys. We will see you next week for next week's episode, which Brian, of course, is...
It's Graduation Part 1.
Graduation Part 1, which we're all excited for. And I hope you enjoyed it. If you do, please recommend us to a friend, a loved one, or passerby. Tell your friends and tell your semi-dead security guards, extras, to listen to Buffy Boys, because we're fun and everyone likes fun. So we will see you next time on Buffy Boys.
Buffy Boys, Buffy Boys, Buffy Boys, Buffy Boys, Buffy Boys. Oh, Doctor Who's back and it's bad, by the way.
See ya.
We should talk about that.
We can talk about that next week. We'll be more Doctor Who next week.
Okay. Slán.
Cheers.